Welcome to The Growing Band Director, the podcast that dives into topics applying to all of us band directors. My name is Kyle Smith, and joining me is my friend and colleague, Jeff Smith. Together, we discuss many aspects of a school band program, including how to build your concert, jazz, and marching programs, as well as everything else we do as band directors. More importantly, we'll discuss concepts that help us all improve our own programs every day. Always remember the famous quote by Ray Kroc, "When you're green, you're growing, and when you're ripe, you rot." Let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome to Branding Your Band. We're going to talk a lot about things that, like promoting your band and things we can do as band directors to make us more in the public's eye and visible and all that. First, I wanted to welcome my good friend, Jeff Smith. Jeff, how was your week?
It's been great. Had a few concerts, had a few snowstorms.
We're supposed to have this big hurricane tomorrow and go to the UNH Jazz Festival and all this stuff, but I'm really hoping everything goes the way it's supposed to.
And I'm supposed to be down in Southern Connecticut judging a Winter Garden Winter Percussion show all day tomorrow.
Well, most important, drive safe, so we're all doing this again later.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I had a side note, before we get started. It's not about this week's podcast, but consistency versus intensity. It's something about building our programs and our musicality in our programs and building, it's the same thing as fitness too, right? Like trying to do something consistently, not having to be as intense all the time as possible. So, they say in working out, like just keep exercising, whatever you need to do to keep exercising, even if it's not the hardest thing to do. I think we try to do everything really intensely, but then we burn out on something and we stop doing it. So that just struck me as something that as band directors we struggle with too. Like we'll do something and then we'll move away from it. That we should just try to be consistent every day. Don't try to change the world. Just try to do the best you can that day, and the next day try to do a little bit better. And if you just slowly try to be consistent, then your bands in your program will probably be pretty good. Would you agree with that?
I agree. My motto always was practice the way you wish to perform. And if you consistently practice all the same way all the time, when it comes time for a performance, there's no anxiety, there's no angst on the part of the performers, and that they just say, okay, and now we're going to play the piece. And I think that goes true to band directors as well when they're running their programs, whether it be a lesson, whether it be a rehearsal, whether it be an after-school rehearsal, whether it be at festival. If you do it the same way all the time, the kids don't get tense. They don't get nervous. They know this is how we function.
Yeah. So before we start our podcast about branding your band, again, I want to tell you about Maine Saxes. They're a one-on-one saxophone specialty shop north of Portland that provides expert repairs, sales, and private lessons, again, in New Gloucester, Maine. They work with you individually by appointment so you can get the best saxophone, mouthpieces and reeds and all that, and they do a really, really great job. They've got some of the fine, newest handmade mouthpieces from artisans like Aaron Drake and Morgan Mouthpieces, and you can visit them at mainsaxes.com. That's MAINE saxes.com for more information. Also, we met with Joe Betancourt about repair last week. If you guys haven't heard that episode, I think it was episode 3. It was a really great one, and it's also on YouTube if you want to see the visual portion of that, because a lot of it Joe was showing us things with his instrument. So if you just look The Growing Band Director on YouTube up, you would find that quick. But his company, Banjo Music, again, carries used instruments in excellent playing condition. Joe's overhauled all these instruments. He and his friend Sean Potter have built this Banjo Music. Again, that's BANDJOE. And it's on Facebook and online. And you can get lots of instruments for way under market value to get more kids playing good horns. So that's banjomusic.com if you guys want to check that out. He's a great person, a great human, great at what he does, and they're great instruments. So on to the podcast. Jeff, why do you think band directors, why we're so bad at promoting our own band? What is it about being a band director that makes us bad about promoting ourselves as a band?
I think it comes from two sources. I think the first source is that it's never taught in colleges. Yeah. We're so worried about teaching content and teaching methodologies that we forget we have to teach our future band directors that this is a business and the business needs to have certain methodologies to make it function. And I think the second part is that we get so caught up with the music, we forget that that's 50% of our job. Our job is far more than just doing the music. It's working with finances, it's working with the emotional stability of the students, it's teaching how and why we do things rather than just teaching the songs that we have in our portfolio for that moment in time. I think another thing that we need to look at is when we're talking about promoting our band is that if you really want to push your band, I think the first thing you have to do from my standpoint is you have to have a logo so that wherever you go, your band, your brand is recognized. We had a logo. We copyrighted our logo that we used for years. And after I retired, the young man who took over my program, he copyrighted his logo, which is a different but still his logo. And when you see that logo, you know it's that band. Yep. So you can be coming to a festival, and from afar you can see a jacket, a T-shirt, side of a truck, and you see that logo. And you said, "Oh, so and so's band is here right now." And people start recognizing that logo. It's the same thing when you put it on the internet.
So rule number one to me is parents have a ton going on, and what they do, their kids do in band is a fraction of what their kids are doing and what's in their life, right? So our job is to make it easiest for the parents of the kids who are in your band. So for me, over communication. This is about making sure parents know what you're expecting of their kids. So if you sent the email, send it more than once. Over the time so that they get the picture. Parents appreciate knowing what to expect from you because of this, and they and their kids will be more reliable for you, right? So, over communicate, make sure they know what's happening in the future, and that will really, really help. So understand that the parents have a ton going on, and your job is to make the kids being in band as easy as possible. And then the second rule, I think, is...
Can I interject before you go on to rule number 2?
Yes.
I think you said it earlier. Consistency. When you put out a schedule, you live to the schedule. And if you're forced to change the schedule, then you have to make adjustments for kids that may not be there because they or their parents have already previously scheduled things around that schedule you put out. So I think the new band director has to put a lot of thought into their schedule in advance of publishing it, whether they do it electronically. And also, I think, as well as emails, I think we also have to start using messaging a lot for getting out blasts of our information.
We're going to get into a lot of that here in a little bit for sure. So good teaser there. Rule number 2, get your band in the spotlight however possible through performances and sharing good news frequently. So again, we're going to talk more about that as things go on, but get your band performing as much as possible. Send videos that you have done, send them to the school board and the school committee, send them to the superintendent, send them to the high school teachers and the middle school teachers, and just be happy with what your kids are doing and make sure everybody can see it so that they know what's happening and what they're supporting and why. So the centerpiece to me for all of this is a website for your band. Now the amount of bands that we have seen their website, and it's pretty blank. It's not really used very much, but they definitely have one. We have some tips for those people. So give me one quick second here.
While Kyle's gone, make sure that once you establish your website, you continually update it. How often do you go online and look at a band's website and it hasn't been updated for 4 or 5 years?
Yep. Okay, so the biggest thing is you don't have to have it be a Google site that nobody can spell. You don't have to have it be a random thing. There's this thing called, getting a domain name. So if you don't know about this, I use name.com. Name.com is the one that I use, and I pay $20 a year, and the website for my band is called westbrook.band. I could have used westbrookmusic.com or westbrook.me or whatever, but I wanted to make it as simple as possible, so westbrook.band was available. And to me, that $20 is totally worth it. You don't have to use name.com. There's many competitors: GoDaddy, Namecheap, Bluehost, Google Domains, HostGator, HostWinds, MailChimp, Pantheon. I haven't used these places, but finding a way to, basically what happens is your website is still a random long website, but it gets linked to this other one. So when people put in westbrook.band, it searches my other website and goes to it. Before we did that, I had to have people say, well, just Google Westbrook music and you'll find it. But now it's like Westbrook.band, boom, and it's right there and easy for them. I use it all the time and I make it easy to use with the newest Google formats. So I had an old website, and my cousin who is a doctoral has his doctorate in educational technology, and he lives in China now. And he was like, with 2 clicks of a button, you can update this to the Google format because the new Google format, because the old one wasn't good on cell phones, on mobile devices. Now my website looks like a pro website, or at least what I think it looks like a pro website, and it's super easy to use. So, your tech people can help you with that, but there's an update function. If you currently have a Google site, you can update it, and basically within an hour, the whole thing can be renovated into like a newer thing. So we use it all the time. Photo art, on it, have like people make a logo for you, and everybody gets their own page, right? Oh, I always put Westbrook.band and the photo art of the season or whatever at the bottom of my email. So everybody sees it all the time. It's always there consistently, and they don't notice it, but it's there. And if anybody wants to know how to find stuff, they know where to go, because that's what I use all the time. We put on recruiting signups links at the top of the website, promo videos about upcoming signups to create buzz, schedules. We talked about schedules that are like really nice looking. If you can find somebody like we have Jess, who's amazing, who can make all of our schedules for us and pass them out. Everything is like right at the top of the page. So, if you do that consistently year after year, people go there for stuff. I wanted to, Jeff, go ahead. I wanted to say how I started the website and why, but I wanted to let you go first.
So my website was set up exactly when I was teaching, was set up exactly the way Kyle's is, nhsband.com. But as time went on, we found that our student population was varying in languages. And so we have an English version and a Spanish version to meet the needs of our population. And I think that's one thing band directors who live in ethnically rich locations, that they need to make sure that they have their paperwork out and their webpage stuff out in a bilingual manner, so that they get in touch with all the kids' parents, because maybe the children speak English, but that's not necessarily the case with the parents. And we want to communicate with the parents so that there's a line of communication working between the band director and the parents at all times.
Yeah, and that's totally true. And we all have in our schools, there's efforts to do that as translation services and all that. I think that's wonderful. For me, I started the website originally because I wanted to pull up recordings in class to play for kids and have them instantly. I was sick of having these recordings, bookmarked and tabbed and all that. I said, well, if I have it all on one page for the wind ensemble and all on one page for the concert band and all on one page for the, the marching band or whatever, I can just have it open, click on it, and it's there. That was like the simple reason why I started it. But now it's like, then the kids can go listen to music beforehand, before you start working on it. They can listen to it while you're working on it. You can put it in concert order. You can change it whenever you want, right? And I will tell you, I am not a tech person, but anybody who has not started a website, you can do it. It's like super easy. And there's a learning curve at first, but once you do it, I probably spend, 5 minutes every 4 or 5 days on our website, just kind of updating something. And it's super simple to keep going. We post videos and performances right when they happen. So rather than send out the video link, I'll put it on Westbrook.band right at the top, and I'll tell people, go to Westbrook.band, and it's right there. Videos, performances, photos while they happen, so everybody can see them.
Well, the other thing you can do also is that, so that you make your brand known all the time, is every month send an email or a message to your members of the Board of Education with the link, so they can see what you did that month and how much you gave to the community as a musical organization.
Yeah, and we have started to watch some of those videos in the band classes. So the kids are talking about it more and more. And the kids who are in the band, who are not in that ensemble, are seeing it while you have them in class. And they go, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, my friend over there is in it. I see it now. I might have more of a chance to do that. Because we all teach students, I think, who are in the concert band class or the wind ensemble class, but they're not doing an after school group. And that's okay. But the more you kind of watch it and spread the word within the kids, I think that helps create a little bit more buzz, and it can't hurt at the very least.
We used to do that all the time, and we used to send it to the middle schools and the elementary schools so that they could see what they have in their future for musical participation.
Yeah, the biggest thing to me is I think everybody has, or a lot of people have some sort of website, but if you can link it to something people can remember and you keep going at that. And again, if you go on name.com and you just put in, whatever you want, they'll give you lots of options and you can search and see if stuff's available. Make it as simple, try it. It doesn't have to be a .com. It doesn't have to be a dot anything. Make it as short as possible. And I'm telling you, that's step number one, because kids don't use their computers to find this stuff. They just pull it up on their phone and listen to it. And the amount of kids today only, I walk through the band room and they're practicing with their stuff and they have a headphone on. They're listening. This is in a study hall. They're listening to the piece and then they're playing their snare drum part along with it or their horn part along with it or whatever. I think it just promotes, the good habits all the time.
And I think you have to make sure that when you establish your web page, that it is cell phone accessible. Sometimes there are a few that aren't accessible to the cell phones.
Yeah, these newer ones, especially if you're a Google school, the newer ones are very good. And I know there's a lot of other things that that are non-Google that you can build as well. We're a Google school, so that's how I did it. But you have tech people. If this podcast is all about learning and growing, right? So if you want your band to get better, this is just something you can do on your own time to help it. And the kids get pumped when they have their own brand. The most you can do with that, I think, is great.
Well, one of the other things that I found is that when the students graduate from high school, I'd see them when I was teaching at the university, and they'd go up to the dorm room and say, "Hey, let's look at this," and they'd put in their webpage from their high school, and their friends would gather around and look and say, "This is what we did." And then when I was teaching music ed classes, we would bring up different schools' web pages up on the smartboard, and we'd talk about them. We'd write pros and cons about the web pages and what would be good to add to that, or what would be which is too much information. You don't need that information in the web page.
Yep. The second part of this podcast is going to be about recruiting. Basically, trying to get more kids in our band, right? And I don't think this is going to be super in depth, but we did have some thoughts of things that we think help as things go forward. So to me, the biggest thing with recruiting of younger kids is when the younger kids, whether it be middle school or as long as the kids younger are watching in person the kids who are older, seeing them perform live. Seeing it on a video is not the same. Sitting in the audience and watching. So how can you get younger kids watching older kids? What we do in our town, which is not revolutionary, but it works really well for us, is we set up a gymnasium as near the end in the springtime, and we have from left to right, we have every kid in band from 5th grade to 12th grade in our little arcs going through, and we call it our all city band, right? And the biggest thing is that everybody's playing like a pop piece or a movie piece or something, because in that time of the year we've kind of done all the other things, and this is just a chance to celebrate and improve the culture of band in our town. So the 5th grade band will play 2 pieces. It lasts about 4.5 minutes, right? And then the 6th grade band will play a piece, and the 7th grade band will play a piece, and the 8th grade band will play a piece, and then they'll all play a combined piece in the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And that might be something like The Lion King. It might be something like Aladdin. It might be something like Hand Clap. It's something that kids like. So far, the parents hear the 5th grade, and then they hear the 6th grade, all in a span of 15 minutes. And they hear it getting better and better, and they're like, oh my gosh, how good can this get? We think this is really, really good. And then they play their piece, and then it comes time for the high school. So for us, we have 2 bands. The concert band will play first. They'll play a piece. Again, we have to watch how long it is, because the 5th graders now have been sitting there on stage or on, in front of their parents in their seat for a long time. So we try to keep the entire concert to 40, 45 minutes, 5 to 12. It's awesome. So the concert band will play a really fun piece. The wind ensemble is our top group. They'll play something that everybody thinks is amazing. And so we've gone from 5th grade through 12th grade, and all of a sudden these kids have sit here and watch the entire thing. And the amount of kids who've gone to graduate who say, you know what, when I was younger, I saw that in person, and it was a really, really big deal. I knew I wanted to do that. And then at the very end, we do a song. I think in the past we've done God Bless America, which is our middle school parade song. But also, everybody can play it from beginning to end. We count it off, and the entire 5 through 12 play it together, and everybody stands and claps, and It's a great way to end, and they love it. And these parents of fifth graders have seen what's in store for their child if they work hard and they want to continue. And the value in that has been huge. And I have to tell you, over the years, I love all the great concerts we put on. I love doing the high level music. I love all that. But this like camaraderie in that concert has turned into something really, really special. And alumni come back, and we have the jazz ensemble play 10 minutes before it starts, so the kids who aren't in jazz band can see that. And there's all this kind of chaos happening. But within 45 minutes, we've sort of pumped up everybody to sign up for band again next year, and continue on. So, Jeff, did you do anything like that?
We did similar to what you did. Our town was a little bit bigger, where we had 2 high schools and 4 middle schools. So we had East Side Festival, West Side Festival. Then on top of that, we had an all city festival. So we hit them twice. And then what we'd also do is at Christmas time, when we had our holiday show, we would invite the middle schools and elementary schools to come to in-school performances of that. And we talked to them a little bit. Same thing with the middle schools. And then when we did our musical, we did it again, so that the middle schools had an opportunity to come and watch and see what we do and talk to them. And then we did it separately as jazz as well, where we had a jazz festival, and we did all jazz that night. And then we'd always try to have one senior in our wind symphony solo and show this, and the child would just say, I started in this grade and this is where I am now. And 9 times out of 10, that student would be somebody who has decided to go into music or made top ranking seat in All-State. And they just talked very nicely with the parents, and we allowed the parents to ask any questions they wanted to ask.
You know, in addition to this, finding ways for your kids to perform in the community. So for our jazz ensemble, we buy sax fronts with that logo on it. So again, you can see it, and it's a cool thing to do in the town fair or the tree lighting or the parades, or just getting out in the community and playing so people see it. When you watch a parade, the best part of a parade's a band, right? So all this stuff is, some people look at it as not as important because sometimes it's not as musical or as challenging. But if you're not out in the community, if they're not seeing it, most people are not going to see the value in what you're doing. I also think it's important. My wife and I have worked hard many years to try to create mentorship programs where younger kids get to learn from older kids. However you can work that out, it's just an amazing opportunity for kids to see that there's something better than them and older than them, and there's a place to grow, and it's really fun, safe place to be.
Well, we created a little bit of rivalry with marching band, because our middle schools marched and our high schools marched. And I used to take my guard students and my drum students and have them go down to the middle schools and help teach the guard and help teach the percussion. We'd show up at the parade site, and I'd go around and I'd score the 2 groups and see who was the better guard that year and who was the better drum line that year. And it just spurred more camaraderie. And then the kids would just talk with them. And I must say, parades aren't the most musical thing, but you will have your greatest contact of the community in that short parade than you'll have at any single performance you do during the course of the year.
People will not see it anywhere else. But Correct. when you do the parade, do simple music and do it well. We might disagree on this, I don't know, but I do like a simple arrangement that my kids can sound good on. We do not play Washington Post March. We do not play Stars and Stripes Forever, because that's hard to play sitting down. We play something that sounds good, the kids can memorize. It's the same every year. So once you've established it, only the freshmen need to learn it. There's no reason not to sound good and look good, because if they see the band and it's not good, they'll go, oof, I guess we don't have a good band. But if it's simple and they sound good and they look good, then people think your band is great, no matter what kind of work you're doing.
Well, I always said to my students, if you look good, people will stop and listen to you.
Yep.
If you don't look good, they're not going to give you the time to listen to you. And that I agree with you 100%. We did the same thing. We learned a piece, and the only group of kids who had to learn it every year were the freshmen that came in every year. And then like every 10 years, we'd say, okay, time to change piece, change it and do it. And it worked out great.
The last thing I wanted to mention of a place to play that is usually really cool that we don't talk about much is Pep Rallies. And to be honest, when Pep Rally week comes up, it's like, okay, here we go. We kind of got to stop doing the stuff we want to do. But the kids tend to love it. I have some advice of some stuff that I've done. This has worked well for me. I have about 50 or so custom arrangements of current pop tunes that we've used for free. Now, this is not copyright or anything like that, but the way I've done this is we have a unit in music theory that's somewhere in the February-March range where students can create current and playable arrangements for their band right away. And this has to be like a 4 or 5 week project. It takes time, but I give them a lot of criteria, right? We can only use the B flat and E flat keys. It has to be simple 4 parts. It's either the top part is clarinet, flute, and trumpet. It's a unison part. It's sax, alto, and horn are the second part. Tenor sax and trombone are the third part, and all the basses are the fourth part. There's no variation of that. So then no matter what you have for strengths or weaknesses, you can cover it all. The tunes are current, and you make sure it's a simple format like intro, verse, chorus, done, or a riff tune, or something that's easy. The kids love doing it. So then when you're playing for the school, they hear a tune that came out 6 months ago, and that makes you very relevant at the time. You have to prove
that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Prove the selections and help them simplify, because if you write what's on the lead sheet, it's not going to work. And going for lead sheets, if people don't know about musicnotes.com, you can find almost anything in there. You can buy it for $4 or $5 in almost any key you want. And musicnotes.com is the place to get those. You can print it out and then work on the arrangement. You know, if the kids are using NoteFlight or MuseScore or whatever you have on computers, I have found when they're done, when you make sure it's a good arrangement, you say, look, if you don't follow my rules, you can do that and that's fine, but we're not going to play it later. And I want the band to see your name for the next 10 years. Right. So they have to share what's called an XML file with me from that. And then I can put it on Sibelius, kind of neaten it up a little bit, have it saved and printed. I do want to put a shout out. I will do my best to put the link of this in the episode. So if anybody wants to see all these PDFs, you are welcome to check them out for free and use them. I'm happy to share them. Again, we do not have license to them or anything. It's just kind of an educational way that we've been able to do that. So, Jeff, any more thoughts on Pep Rallies?
Yes. The one thing I'd like to add is that try to convince in the fall to have your Pep Rally committee do an outdoor Pep Rally for all fall sports. And what happened in my school was they said, well, the band's playing at all the home football games. Why doesn't the band perform for the whole student body? So we'd play all the pop tunes and everything while all the teams were being introduced. And then we came on the field and did our field show for the whole school so that every kid in the school got to see what's going on. And that became a recruiting tool for guard and some kids who'd stop playing say, could I come back and play again? Yeah. Sure, let's work it out. So you never know what spices up something.
At the same time, sometimes kids feel hesitant about that. Like, oh, I don't want to perform in front of my peers. I don't know who's going to say what or whatever. And that's true. There's idiots everywhere and kids are going to say stuff. So that's the delicate thing about that. But I totally agree with you. We don't do that. And I would love to find a way to do that. Jeff, do we have any closing thoughts? I've gotten through what I wanted to mention. Again, in wrapping up, we talked about using a website and a logo and all this. Again, the show notes will be on here. Anything you want to check out, I'll have that on the website if you want to click on it for the Growing Band Director. And we talked about this recruiting, getting kids to see older kids playing and finding ways to get your band out there. It's a little bit more work, but it works really well.
My only comment is that be consistent so that what you do occurs all the time so that you, whether it be on the webpage, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be out on the rehearsal stage, that the kids know what's expected of them all the time and that the parents know when and where the children have to be whenever they're under your jurisdiction.
Jeff, it's been really fun. I hope everybody looks forward to the next podcast, which is going to be an amazing one. Can't wait for it. See you guys later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe too. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you have the time, we highly recommend the After Sectionals podcast for more great listening. Thank you for listening to the Growing Band Director. See you next week.